50-plus NBA players reacting to prison sentence over gambling scandal. The NBA has just been rocked by one of the biggest scandals in sports history, a gambling network so deep it sent shockwaves through every locker room, front office, and fan base. Over 50 players have spoken out, and the reactions are nothing short of explosive. From prison sentences looming to shattered legacies, this isn't just about bets, it's about betrayal, greed, and the game's very soul. You won't believe who got caught in the crossfire. Stay locked in because this is the story shaking basketball to its core right here on Legends of Black Excellence. Draymond Green. On October 24, 2025, Draymond Green walked into the Chase Center expecting another routine morning. Instead, he was hit by the news that several NBA figures, including Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, had been arrested in a federal gambling probe involving more than 30 people. The Golden State Warriors' emotional leader, known for his blunt honesty, admitted he was completely shocked. He had overslept for shoot-around, then arrived to find the league's integrity under fire. With the headlines dominated by FBI raids and the words wire fraud and money laundering, even veterans like Green were left speechless. But Draymond's reaction went beyond disbelief. Instead of condemning the league's gambling ties, he spoke about accountability and realism. The business is the business, he told reporters, referring to the NBA's multi-million-dollar partnerships with DraftKings and FanDuel. For him, betting companies weren't the villains. It was the misuse of privilege by individuals who knew the rules yet chose to gamble with their futures. Green compared it to the NBA's long-standing sponsorships with alcohol brands or luxury cars. Partnerships don't dictate personal choices. His words carried a weight few others could balance, acknowledging systemic flaws without absolving personal responsibility. As the scandal deepened, Green focused on the bigger picture, how trust could be rebuilt. He emphasized that transparency and education must become the league's priority, warning that once fans start doubting the honesty of the game, everything collapses. He called for stricter integrity programs, mandatory ethics briefings, and AI-assisted monitoring systems to detect betting irregularities before they spiral into criminal conspiracies. To him, the solution wasn't to abandon betting entirely, but to build firmer guardrails that protect both players and the league's reputation. In the aftermath, Draymond became one of the few voices balancing outrage with insight. While some demanded lifetime bans and others blamed corporate greed, Green's stance resonated with reason. He understood that the NBA's evolution into a multi-billion-dollar entertainment engine came with risks, and that managing those risks required intelligence, not hysteria. His measured reaction turned a chaotic week into a moment of reflection. "We can't control what's already happened," he said, "but we can decide how the league moves forward from here." Al Horford. On the morning after the shocking arrests of Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, Al Horford addressed reporters with the calm gravity that comes from nearly 2 decades in the league. The Boston Celtics veteran didn't dwell on courtroom drama or FBI headlines. He turned the conversation toward player safety. "It feels different out there now," Horford observed, describing how legalized sports betting had changed fan behavior. What once was passion had curdled into hostility. When a player missed a rebound or fell short of his projected points, fans who lost money reacted with anger rather than disappointment. For Horford, the scandal was more than a criminal story. It was a wake-up call about how gambling affects athletes' daily lives. With his trademark composure, Horford detailed the emotional toll that new betting culture imposes. He noted that prop bets make every statistic personal, transforming a night's performance into someone else's financial win or loss. "You feel it in the stands," he said. "The energy shifts when someone's parlay breaks." He warned that behind every angry tweet or sideline shout might be a bettor who just lost thousands. Horford urged the NBA to protect its players with stronger arena security, stricter codes of conduct, and public education that reminds fans athletes are human beings, not betting slips. Horford's remarks resonated deeply because they came from experience. He recalled moments when teammates received threatening messages after underperforming and how social media now blurs the line between fan engagement and harassment. The irony, he pointed out, is that the league earns billions through partnerships with betting companies, while players shoulder the risk when wagers go wrong. We're asked to embrace the business, he noted, but we also need the league to embrace our safety. His comments prompted discussions inside the NBA Players Association about expanding mental health and security initiatives. In a scandal that exposed greed, deception, and organized crime, Al Horford's reaction stood out for its humanity. He wasn't angry, he was concerned. While others debated punishment, he focused on prevention. His message was simple yet powerful. As betting becomes part of basketball's future, the league must ensure that respect for the game and for the people who play it remains at its core. Shaquille O'Neal. When the news of the gambling scandal broke, Shaquille O'Neal didn't hold back. The Hall of Famer and inside the NBA analyst spoke with the weight of both experience and disappointment. On the October 24, 2025 broadcast, the usually jovial Diesel traded laughter for somber reflection. "I'm ashamed," he said, his voice heavy. Ashamed that they put themselves, their families, and the NBA in this position. For Shaq, the story wasn't just about broken laws, it was about broken trust. He reminded viewers that every player is warned annually about the league's zero-tolerance policy on gambling. "We all know the rules. We all know what's at stake," he declared, shaking his head in disbelief that anyone could still cross that line. O'Neal's frustration stemmed not from judgment, but from empathy. As someone who had lived through fame, fortune, and temptation, he knew the challenges that came with success. "You're making $26 million a year. How much more do you need?" he asked, pointedly referencing Terry Rozier's alleged involvement in insider betting schemes. Shaq's words cut to the heart of the scandal, the senseless risk of trading generational wealth and reputation for a few short-term gains. To him, the behavior wasn't about addiction or ignorance, it was about priorities. The scandal, he warned, could set the league back decades in public trust. Beyond condemnation, Shaq spoke like a mentor who felt personally betrayed. He described the NBA as a family, one built on brotherhood, discipline, and shared opportunity, and said it hurt to see that foundation cracked from within. He reminded younger players that every decision they make reflects on everyone who came before them. "We built this league with hard work and sacrifice," he said. "You can't gamble that away." The studio fell silent as he finished a rare moment of gravity on a show known for banter. Shaquille O'Neal's reaction became one of the defining voices of the controversy. His honesty resonated because it came from a place of love for the game. In a moment when outrage was easy, Shaq chose sincerity. His message to the next generation of players was clear: fame can fade, money can disappear, but integrity, the soul of basketball, must never be compromised. Charles Barkley. When the scandal erupted and the basketball world turned upside down, Charles Barkley brought the fire that only he could. During the October 24, 2025 episode of Inside the NBA, the Hall of Famer and 1993 MVP didn't mince words. His reaction wasn't measured, it was explosive. "These dudes are stupid," Barkley thundered, shaking his head in disbelief, as details of the arrests of Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier spread across the studio. While Shaquille O'Neal expressed sorrow and Kenny Smith searched for understanding, Barkley drew a hard line. There were no excuses. "This ain't got nothing to do with gambling addiction," he barked. "You under no circumstances can fix basketball games." His tone left no room for interpretation, betraying the integrity of the game in his eyes was unforgivable. For Barkley, who has never hidden his own love of casinos and card tables, the distinction was crystal clear. "I like to gamble," he admitted, "but I don't risk my career or my sport doing it." He condemned the alleged actions of Rozier, faking injuries to manipulate prop bets, and questioned how anyone earning $26 million a year could jeopardize that for pocket change. The absurdity of it all seemed to fuel his outrage. If you're making that kind of money and still can't control yourself, "That's not addiction. That's stupidity," he growled. His words echoed across social media, sparking debates among players, fans, and analysts about whether compassion or consequence should define the league's response. Barkley's frustration went deeper than money. It was about principle. He reminded viewers that gambling scandals strike at the heart of what makes professional sports sacred: trust in fair play. Once fans stop believing games are real, the whole league crumbles, he warned. In his view, the NBA had to respond with decisive punishment, lifetime bans if necessary, to protect its credibility. He compared the current moment to baseball's Black Sox scandal of 1919, calling this the biggest test of integrity in NBA history. As the broadcast ended, Barkley's fiery words hung in the air like a warning shot. Where others saw a scandal, he saw a moral crossroads. His message was brutal, but clear: talent and fame mean nothing without discipline. "You don't gamble with the game that made you rich," he said. "Because once you lose the game's trust, you've lost everything." Kenny Smith. When Kenny Smith took his seat beside Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA that fateful night of October 24th, 2025, he knew the conversation would be heated. The arrests of Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier had thrown the NBA into turmoil, and emotions ran high. But while Barkley blasted those involved, as stupid, Smith refused to let the dialogue stop at outrage. Calm, yet firm, he offered a different perspective, one rooted in empathy, understanding, and a deeper awareness of the human psyche. "Gambling is an addiction," he said quietly. "And addiction makes people make illogical decisions no matter how much money they have." Smith's argument wasn't about excusing wrongdoing, but about understanding its cause. He pointed out that even wealthy, successful athletes can fall victim to compulsive behavior, just as one of the poker scheme's victims, a multimillionaire, had lost $1.8 million in a single night. His point was simple: wealth doesn't immunize anyone from weakness. The NBA, Smith said, has to recognize the psychological realities of addiction if it hopes to prevent similar crises in the future. If someone's drowning, you don't just yell at them to swim better, you throw them a lifeline. His compassion clashed with Barkley's fury, creating one of the most gripping live debates in the show's history. Beyond the studio, Smith extended his message. In interviews and social posts over the following days, he urged the NBA to create anonymous helplines, mandatory therapy sessions, and education programs on gambling behavior. He argued that as sports betting grows now legal in over 35 U.S. states, the league has a moral obligation to provide mental health safeguards alongside its billion-dollar betting partnerships. "You can't promote gambling on every broadcast," he said, "and then act surprised when someone crosses the line." His words resonated with fans and players alike, who saw the issue as a symptom of a wider cultural shift. Kenny Smith's reaction stood out because it humanized the story. Where others saw greed, he saw pain. Where others demanded punishment, he demanded prevention. His voice reminded the NBA that behind every scandal are people struggling with pressure, temptation, and invisible battles. In a moment defined by judgment, Smith chose compassion, and in doing so, he gave the league something even more valuable than outrage: a roadmap toward understanding. Steve Kerr. When Steve Kerr stepped to the microphone on October 24, 2025, just hours before the Golden State Warriors season opener, he wasn't talking about lineups or defensive schemes. The league had just been rocked by the arrests of Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier. And as a 9-time NBA champion, Kerr knew this was bigger than basketball. His tone was calm but heavy with concern. "Our players are under attack," he said, not from rivals on the court, but from an increasingly toxic fan culture fueled by legalized betting. Kerr described the new reality bluntly. Every missed shot, every turnover isn't just a stat anymore. It's someone's lost money. Kerr reflected on how dramatically the relationship between fans and players has changed. During his own playing days under Phil Jackson, gambling meant a few teammates playing friendly poker on road trips. Now, he said, technology had weaponized that pastime. With sports betting apps only a tap away, The emotional line between fandom and financial obsession had blurred. "You can feel it in the arenas," Kerr explained. "The anger's different. It's not disappointment. It's resentment." He recalled recent incidents where players received online abuse and even threats after missing prop bets by a single rebound or assist. "It's weird," he repeated, using that simple word to describe a deeply unsettling shift in the sports culture. Kerr didn't call for abandoning sports betting. He understood its financial weight in the NBA's modern ecosystem, generating hundreds of millions in sponsorships, but he demanded better protection for players. He urged the league to expand security measures, use AI systems to monitor social media harassment, and tie arena access to stricter behavioral codes. More importantly, he called for reforming the NBA's annual gambling seminars into real interactive education that teaches players how to recognize danger signs in betting relationships. "We can't just hand them a pamphlet and think it's enough," he said. As the scandal continued to unfold, Steve Kerr became one of its most reasoned and respected voices. He wasn't angry, he was alarmed. His message went beyond punishment or blame. It was about safeguarding the human side of the game. "We have to protect our players," he concluded. "Because if fans stop seeing them as people and only as bets, we've already lost, more than any game can measure." Carmelo Anthony. When the storm of this gambling scandal hit, Carmelo Anthony found himself watching from a different stage, not the court but the spotlight of his own legacy. On October 24, 2025, while attending the opening of the House of Melo exhibition in his hometown of Baltimore, the 10-time All-Star and 2023 retiree was asked about the shocking arrests of Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier. His response was reflective, personal, and deeply human. "They may say they don't care," he said softly, "but they care because it affects them." For Anthony, the scandal wasn't just about two names in headlines. It was about the unseen pressure modern players carry in an era where every shot can decide someone's bet slip. Speaking later on CNBC's Closing Bell Overtime, Anthony painted a vivid picture of what today's NBA feels like from a player's perspective. "Just because you bet on me to score 25 and I get 22, suddenly I'm the villain," he said. He described how prop betting culture had twisted performance into personal judgment, how athletes now play not only against their opponents, but against invisible expectations from millions of gamblers. "It's not just fans watching the game anymore," he added. "It's investors tracking your every move." The remark struck a chord across social media, resonating with players who privately admitted they now check betting odds on their own performances before games. Carmelo also emphasized the psychological toll of this new reality. During his years with the New York Knicks, he experienced firsthand how quickly support could turn to hostility when he didn't meet statistical projections. He warned that this new culture of instant backlash is eroding the mental well-being of players. "The game's supposed to be freedom," he said, "but now it feels like surveillance." Anthony urged the NBA to not only punish wrongdoing, but also confront the broader cultural consequences of normalizing constant betting exposure from arena kiosks to in-app wagers. In a league obsessed with performance metrics, Carmelo Anthony's reaction stood apart for its depth and vulnerability. He wasn't defending those accused, he was defending the soul of the game. "Basketball used to be about joy and competition," he said. "Now it's about odds and outcomes. If we don't fix that, we'll lose what makes this sport beautiful." Rick Carlisle. When Rick Carlisle faced the press on October 24, 2025, the Indiana Pacers head coach and president of the National Basketball Coaches Association carried a different kind of weight. The league was reeling from the arrests of Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, and for Carlisle, the news hit painfully close to home. Billups wasn't just another name in a headline, he was a teammate, a friend, and a fellow champion from the 2004 Detroit Pistons. Carlisle began his remarks with quiet sincerity. "It's a shocking day. My heart goes out to Chauncey and his family." But his sympathy soon turned into something deeper, a call for accountability and reform within the NBA's entire system. Carlisle, known for his meticulous nature and sense of integrity, made it clear that this wasn't just a case of a few bad decisions. "This is a systemic issue," he said. "We can't act like this came out of nowhere." As NBCA president, he criticized the league's current gambling education programs, brief annual sessions designed to check compliance boxes rather than shape real understanding. "We've got to do better," he urged. "Our players and coaches live in a world where gambling access is a tap away. The lines aren't just blurred anymore, they're erased." His words captured the growing fear that the NBA had embraced betting revenue without fully preparing its people for the risks that came with it. Carlisle went further, calling for an independent audit of the NBA's relationships with betting companies and data firms. He argued that transparency was essential not only to restore public confidence, but also to protect those working inside the league. "If we can track every shot taken on the floor," he said, "we should be able to track where the vulnerabilities in our system are." He suggested practical reforms, enhanced vetting for team staff, confidential reporting systems for gambling approaches, and external oversight to ensure betting partnerships don't compromise integrity. What set Rick Carlisle's reaction apart was its balance of compassion and leadership. He didn't rush to condemn. He sought to understand and fix what went wrong. As a veteran coach with nearly 4 decades in professional basketball, his perspective carried authority. "This league has survived controversies before," he concluded, "but integrity is not something you rebuild easily. Once it's gone, it's gone." His words resonated far beyond Indiana, a reminder that in times of crisis, true leaders don't just demand answers, they demand change. J.J. Redick. When the scandal broke wide open, J.J. Redick found himself in one of the toughest positions any rookie head coach could face. Just days into his tenure leading the Los Angeles Lakers, the former sharpshooter and podcast host was suddenly navigating headlines that linked the NBA to organized crime and insider betting. Even more unsettling, one of his own stars, LeBron James, was mentioned in federal filings as an unwitting victim of leaked injury information. At his pregame press conference on October 24, 2025, Redick's usually composed tone carried a quiet intensity. "We've had 2 meetings on this already," he said. "It's on everyone's mind. The rules are clear, and we're going to follow them." Redick's response reflected the discipline and analytical thinking that defined his playing career. Instead of deflecting questions or hiding behind public relations scripts, he addressed the situation head-on. Behind the scenes, the Lakers coaching staff reviewed every clause in the NBA's gambling policy, with players from fantasy leagues to injury disclosures. "It's not just about those who got caught," he told reporters. "It's about protecting our own house." For veterans like LeBron and new faces like Bronny James, the message was the same: be vigilant, be smart, and understand that a single careless conversation could now have legal consequences. Redick also used the moment to highlight the league's growing contradictions. The NBA, he noted, earns over $1.5 billion annually from sports betting partnerships, yet suspends or bans players for even minor infractions tied to those same industries. "There has to be better tension wires," he said, meaning structural safeguards that prevent temptation before it becomes a problem. He suggested technological reforms, such as AI-based anomaly detection to flag unusual betting activity connected to team insiders, as well as cooling-off periods for individuals who might be vulnerable to gambling pressure. His remarks drew praise from analysts for being pragmatic rather than performative. What made J.J. Redick's reaction compelling was his ability to bridge both worlds, that of a player who had lived the modern NBA grind and that of a coach now responsible for guiding others through it. He didn't moralize or dramatize, he strategized. "The integrity of the game isn't someone else's job," he said in closing. "It's everyone's responsibility." In a league still reeling from scandal, his words landed like a play drawn up for the future, clear, composed, and designed to keep the team and the sport from collapsing under the weight of its own success. Gilbert Arenas. When the gambling scandal exploded across headlines, Gilbert Arenas was one of the few former NBA players who didn't seem surprised. The three-time All-Star turned outspoken podcaster had been warning for months about the dangers of underground betting circles that blur the line between friendly games and federal crimes. So when Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier were arrested on October 23, 2025, Arenas took to his show, Gil's Arena, with a mix of vindication and disbelief. "They can't hold me," he declared, referencing his own brush with investigators earlier that year after authorities found illegal poker games at his Los Angeles mansion. Cleared of wrongdoing, Arenas now saw himself as proof of how close the league had been to disaster all along. On air, Arenas dissected the scandal with the precision of someone who knew the territory intimately. He mocked the poor judgment of those caught up in it. "That's not hustle. That's heartbreak waiting," while admitting he understood how easily it could happen. To him, the story wasn't about gambling itself, but about arrogance and naivety. He explained how high-stakes poker nights, once casual gatherings among friends and celebrities, had evolved into sophisticated traps set by organized crime. "They'll use your fame to bait whales," he said, "and by the time you realize you're the face card in a crooked deck, it's too late." His commentary peeled back the glamour and exposed the manipulation that often lurks behind exclusive games. Unlike the polished statements from coaches and executives, Arenas spoke with raw candor. He admitted he had once hosted the same kind of poker parties that landed others in handcuffs, and that only luck and timing had kept him from joining them. He described how gambling networks exploit players' wealth and ego, using flattery and familiarity to draw them into schemes they barely understand. "The FBI doesn't chase rumors," he warned. "If they knock on your door, they already got you." His words carried a streetwise authority that few other commentators could match. Gilbert Arenas's reaction was equal parts confession and cautionary tale. He didn't excuse anyone, but he didn't pretend to be above them either. His perspective revealed the gray area between greed and entrapment, a world where ambition, temptation, and criminal enterprise intersect. "The game used to end when the buzzer sounded," he said. "Now it follows you home to your phone, your table, your circle. And if you're not careful, it'll take everything you built." Chauncey Billups. When Chauncey Billups, the respected head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers and 2004 NBA Finals MVP, was led away in handcuffs on October 23, 2025, the basketball world froze. Known as Mr. Big Shot for his composure under pressure, Billups had spent over 2 decades cultivating a reputation as one of the game's most respected minds. That image shattered overnight when the FBI announced his arrest as part of Operation Nothing But Bet, a sweeping investigation that exposed a network of insider sports betting and mafia-backed poker games spanning 11 states. Federal prosecutors accused Billups of acting as a face card for rigged high-stakes poker tables and leaking internal team information used to manipulate betting outcomes. For fans who grew up idolizing him, the fall was as shocking as it was heartbreaking. According to the indictment, Billups was linked to an Oregon-based faction of the scheme and allegedly tipped off bettors about lineup decisions, including a March 24, 2023 Trail Blazers game where multiple starters were unexpectedly rested. The syndicate reportedly profited heavily from wagers placed on that matchup. But Billups's alleged role didn't stop there. Prosecutors claimed he lent his credibility to elite poker events, organized by members of 4 major crime families: the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese, who used hidden cameras, marked cards, and even infrared X-ray tables to ensure outcomes were rigged. One victim alone lost nearly $1.8 million. The case outlined a dark fusion of celebrity influence and organized crime, and Billups was caught squarely in the middle. As the details unfolded, colleagues across the league reacted with disbelief. Rick Carlisle, a fellow coach and Billups's former teammate, expressed heartbreak but demanded systemic reform. Shaquille O'Neal said he was ashamed, while Charles Barkley called the behavior the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Billups, meanwhile, remained silent publicly, his legal team issuing only a brief statement asserting his innocence and cooperation with authorities. The Trailblazers immediately suspended him, naming assistant coach Tiago Splitter as interim replacement. Within 24 hours, the NBA confirmed it was launching its own internal review to determine whether any league rules or integrity protocols had been violated. For a man once celebrated as the model of poise and professionalism, Chauncey Billups's arrest marked one of the darkest chapters in NBA history. Whether ultimately convicted or cleared his case, became the symbol of a league struggling to balance billion-dollar betting deals with the fragile trust that sustains competition. The player who once thrived on pressure now faces a different kind, not from a shot clock, but from a courtroom where every decision could determine the legacy of Mr. Big Shot himself. Terry Rozier. When Terry Rozier's name appeared in federal indictments on October 23, 2025, the news hit like a thunderclap. The explosive FBI operation codenamed Nothing But Bet had already sent shockwaves through the NBA, but the inclusion of a current star guard for the Miami Heat elevated the scandal from controversy to catastrophe. Rozier, a player known for his grit and competitive flair, was suddenly accused of something unthinkable, manipulating games for profit. According to court documents, Rozier allegedly shared insider information and even faked injuries to influence prop bets individual wagers on his game performance. The FBI claimed he tipped associates off before a March 23, 2023 matchup between the Charlotte Hornets and New Orleans Pelicans, saying he would exit early with a shoulder issue. True to his word, Rozier left the game after 9 minutes and 34 seconds, helping his conspirators cash in more than $200,000 in winnings. At first, the story seemed too wild to believe. Rozier had signed a 4-year, $96.3 million contract, earning more in a single season than most people could dream of in a lifetime. Why risk it all? Yet investigators alleged that greed wasn't the only motive. It was arrogance, opportunity, and access. The betting syndicate behind the scheme relied on individuals like Rozier to feed them private injury updates, rotations, and minute limits before the information reached sportsbooks. The profits, according to the FBI, were laundered through shell accounts tied to organized crime families. Rozier's alleged involvement placed him at the epicenter of a multi-million-dollar fraud that federal prosecutors described as one of the most sophisticated sports betting conspiracies ever uncovered. The NBA acted swiftly. Commissioner Adam Silver placed Rozier on indefinite suspension pending the outcome of the case, while the Miami Heat organization cut off all public comment. The precedent was chilling. Just 1 year earlier, Jontay Porter had been banned for life for a smaller prop betting scandal. If the charges against Rozier hold a similar fate, could await him along with potential prison sentences of up to 20 years per count for wire fraud and conspiracy. His once bright career, which saw him rise from a Boston role player to a reliable scorer in Miami, now teeters on the edge of collapse. Across the league, reactions ranged from disbelief to outrage. Shaquille O'Neal called it unforgivable. Charles Barkley blasted the decision as the dumbest risk I've ever seen. Others, like Kenny Smith, argued that addiction and pressure might play a role in such self-destructive choices. But for Terry Rozier, the debate offers little comfort. The man once known for his confidence and swagger, Scary Terry now faces the most terrifying opponent of all the American justice system. If convicted, his fall could become the defining cautionary tale of the NBA's modern betting era, a reminder that in the pursuit of easy money, even stars can lose everything that truly matters. LeBron James. When the FBI's investigation into the NBA's gambling scandal became public on October 23, 2025, one of the names unexpectedly mentioned in the federal filings was LeBron James. But this time, the league's most iconic player wasn't under suspicion. He was an unwitting victim. Court documents revealed that former assistant coach Damon Jones had allegedly leaked confidential information about LeBron's unreported foot injury prior to a February 9, 2023 Lakers-Bucks game, allowing an illegal betting ring to profit from insider wagers. Though LeBron himself was never implicated, the revelation that even his medical status had been exploited underscored how deeply the scandal had penetrated the NBA's inner workings. For LeBron, who has spent more than 2 decades as the face of professionalism and discipline, the news was infuriating. In a brief statement through his representatives, he expressed deep disappointment that private information was used to compromise the integrity of the sport and the safety of players. Sources close to the Lakers described him as furious behind closed doors, not only because his trust had been violated, but because it endangered teammates, staff, and the reputation of a league he helped elevate. "This isn't about gambling," one associate quoted him as saying. "It's about betrayal." His response struck a chord across social media, where fans and analysts rallied behind him, calling the situation a breach of both privacy and ethics. Head coach J.J. Redick confirmed that the Lakers held multiple internal meetings immediately after the arrests to reinforce strict compliance and communication rules. "We've reviewed every policy, every possible scenario," Redick said. "When something like this touches our locker room even indirectly, we take it personally." Within days, the Lakers organization implemented new security protocols for player data, medical reports, and team communications measures designed to prevent leaks and rebuild trust. LeBron, as always, led by example. He reportedly spoke to younger players about accountability, vigilance, and the dangers of outside influence in the age of legalized betting. LeBron James's reaction reflected his unique position as both athlete and ambassador. At 40 years old, he's seen the NBA evolve from simple competition to a multi-billion-dollar business intertwined with gambling partnerships and digital markets. Yet even in the face of scandal, his stance was unwavering. Integrity must come first. "The game gave us everything," he told reporters a week later. "It's our job to protect it." In a season overshadowed by corruption and chaos, LeBron's calm defiance reminded the world that leadership isn't just about points scored, it's about standing tall when the sport itself is under fire. Damon Jones. When the FBI unsealed its sweeping indictments on October 23, 2025, one of the names buried deep in the documents shocked longtime basketball insiders. Damon Jones, a former NBA player and assistant coach, once known for his easygoing charm and sharp basketball mind. To the public, Jones had been a familiar face, a sharpshooter during his playing days, and later a respected assistant who worked alongside LeBron James in both Cleveland and Miami. But according to federal prosecutors, he played a far darker role in Operation Nothing But Bet, acting as a bridge between the locker room and the betting underworld. Investigators alleged that Jones served as a crucial middleman, leaking inside information about player injuries, rotations, and lineup decisions to a network of professional bettors. The FBI cited multiple instances, including a February 9, 2023 Lakers-Bucks game, where Jones allegedly shared details about LeBron James's unreported foot injury before the news became public, a leak that enabled bettors to place profitable wagers on adjusted point spreads. Another accusation involved a January 15, 2024 Lakers-Thunder matchup, in which Jones supposedly tipped off contacts that the Lakers would rest key starters. Prosecutors claimed that these disclosures, while seemingly minor, generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in illicit profits for syndicate members linked to organized crime. But the most alarming revelation came from Operation Royal Flush, the parallel investigation into mafia-backed poker games. Authorities alleged that Jones not only facilitated insider leaks, but also appeared at high-stakes poker tables used to lure wealthy victims into rigged games. Like Chauncey Billups, he was accused of lending legitimacy to the operation by virtue of his NBA reputation, the face card who made elite gamblers feel safe while hidden technology and marked decks ensured their losses. In total, prosecutors said the combined sports betting and poker schemes defrauded victims of more than $700 million across several years. Following his arrest, Jones was immediately suspended from all NBA-related duties, and his attorney issued a brief statement asserting his innocence. Still, the fallout was swift. Former teammates and players expressed disbelief. LeBron James called the situation a personal betrayal, and J.J. Redick vowed to tighten security around sensitive team data. Federal charges against Jones include wire fraud conspiracy and participation in an illegal gambling enterprise, each carrying potential prison sentences of up to 20 years. For Damon Jones, once known for his humor and mentorship, the scandal represents a stunning collapse. A man who built his career on connections and trust now faces allegations of having weaponized both. His story stands as one of the most sobering lessons from the entire scandal in the high-stakes world of modern sports. Even friendships forged on the hardwood can become currency in a criminal game. Adam Silver. When the FBI arrests made headlines on October 23, 2025, sending shockwaves through professional basketball, all eyes turned to one man, Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA. For more than a decade, Silver had been celebrated as a visionary leader who modernized the league, expanding global reach, embracing social issues, and carefully ushering basketball into the lucrative world of legalized sports betting. But now that same industry had become the NBA's greatest crisis. Two major figures, Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, stood accused of participating in mafia-linked gambling operations. The integrity of the game, something Silver had fiercely protected throughout his tenure, was suddenly under siege. Within hours of the news breaking, Silver issued a formal statement from league headquarters in New York. The allegations are deeply disturbing. The integrity of our sport is paramount, and we will fully cooperate with federal authorities to ensure accountability at every level. Behind the calm wording, however, league insiders described a commissioner in emergency mode. Silver convened a late-night conference call with team owners, legal counsel, and union leaders, activating the NBA's Integrity Monitoring Unit to audit all player, coach, and staff interactions with gambling entities. By the following morning, both Billups and Rozier had been placed on indefinite suspension, and an internal task force had been launched to review the NBA's policies on betting transparency, injury reporting, and data security. Silver's leadership style, measured, analytical, and unflinching, was on full display. In a press briefing 2 days later, he acknowledged the uncomfortable reality that the NBA had benefited enormously from its betting partnerships, which now generated more than $1.5 billion annually in sponsorships and data rights. But he admitted that our success in the gaming sector has outpaced our safeguards, vowing to rebuild trust through transparency and reform. He proposed stricter limits on prop bets involving individual player statistics, mandatory third-party audits of sportsbook relationships, and enhanced education for all league personnel. "Legal betting is here to stay," he said. But so is our responsibility to ensure it never compromises the game itself. While critics accused Silver of opening the door to this crisis by embracing gambling too quickly, supporters pointed to his decisive response as proof of strong leadership. Under his direction, the NBA partnered with the Department of Justice to develop a new data integrity framework and collaborated with the Players Association on preventive mental health programs for those vulnerable to gambling pressure. As federal investigations continued, Silver's challenge became clear, preserving the balance between profit and principle in an era when the line between fandom and finance had all but vanished. Basketball's credibility, he told reporters, is not negotiable. The score must always be real, the competition pure. That's what we owe our players, our fans, and the game itself. The NBA now stands at a crossroads, torn between progress and principle, profit and purity, as the league scrambles to restore its reputation. One question remains: can basketball's soul survive in an era where every shot is tied to a wager? From Draymond's reason to Shaq's shame, from Melo's reflection to Silver's resolve, the reactions reveal a sport wrestling with its own identity. Has the game evolved, or has it been sold? The debate burns on. And here on Legends of Black Excellence, we're asking, is integrity still the true currency of greatness?